Welcome back to another edition of the podcast that is proudly sponsored by Cards Accepted. This is our Game Week 15 National League predictions. As always, I'm your host, Luke Walsh, and my co-host is Paul Franklin, who, of course, is a Wealdstone fan who probably won't be in the best of moods at the moment, particularly after Saturday. But, Paul, firstly, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm all right, thanks. I've been to Wembley this afternoon to watch the NFL, so yeah, that got me over the what I had to watch yesterday at the Vale with Wealdstone playing Yeovil. I had the misfortune of commentating on it as well, and that was a really difficult gig because it's very hard to be positive from a Wealdstone perspective. But to be fair to Yeovil, they played very well. They exploited possibly the weaknesses Wealdstone show, and Yeovil had a particularly good afternoon and are now on the verge of the playoffs, and clearly Wealdstone have got two massive games coming up in the next week, so we'll see where we are after those. But we're starting to sort of panic a little bit that it may be curtains on the National League for Wealdstone as we speak.
I don't want to hear that, Paul. Like I keep saying all the time, I need that co-host, and I don't want to be out on the lookout for another one next season, because that's just something that I don't want to have to do. I don't need the headache. Talking of headaches, I do have to apologise. It's nearly been 2 weeks since myself and Paul were, of course, hosting the podcasts. Of course, last week it was the FA Cup. We don't usually cover the FA Cup on the podcast particularly. And of course, on Thursday night, we did try to postpone it because I had eye strain, and then I still had eye strain on Friday night. So we do apologise for that. But to make up for it, we have got a Sunday show, and we're going to preview Game Week 15. And I look ahead to Game Week 15, and it's quite a mouth-watering game week with some of the games. We've got first versus third in the division. The winner, of course, would go top of the National League, depending on Forest Green's result. We've also got a derby day, which is actually sixth versus 7th, with Rochdale versus Halifax. And if you actually look at a lot of the fixtures, they're all very relevant to each side. A lot of the sides who are playing against each other are in similar positions in the table. Southend and Aldershot, two of the slow starters of the season, who are recently starting to pick up, they're coming up against each other as well. We've also got Hartlepool under Lenny Lawrence. Of course, they're going to Altrincham. Boston are playing Fylde. That's a bottom of the table clash. And of course, your boys are against Braintree. And that's something that I want to speak a little bit about is Wealdstone. I know you've mentioned it there, but we look at Wealdstone and, you look at the start to the season, I won't say the amount of money they've spent, but the money that Wealdstone spent compared to previous seasons. And it's something that they've had to do, yet they're still struggling in the position at the moment. And I think it just tells the story, doesn't it, that particularly towards the bottom, sides are able to spend a lot more money now, and Wealdstone are struggling to compete with that. You look at them at the moment, they've scored 9 goals all season. They've had 1 win, which came at home to Fylde. The only positive that I would say for Wealdstone at the moment is they haven't played any side in the bottom 6 apart from Fylde, who they did actually beat. They have, in my opinion, probably had the toughest start to the season compared to any other side. I think they've played most of the top 7 now, haven't they? So is that the only positive that you take at the moment, being a Wealdstone fan?
Yeah, I guess so, Luke. I mean, like I said, the next 2 games, we've got Braintree coming up, and we've got, it's gone out of my head. Braintree and Ebbsfleet coming up in the next 2 games. And clearly, we talk about that mini league at the bottom of the table, then they're 2 games that Wealdstone have got to win. I think that the crumb of comfort at the moment is that we're not being cut adrift too much from, say, 5th from bottom Braintree. Mm-hmm. But then when you get to Maidenhead up, it starts to get really sort of tough. So, if we're talking this time next Sunday, if you like, and we've got 2 wins under our belt, and we scored a couple of goals, and we're into double figures for points, and it may look a little bit more positive. But it's just really, really difficult at the moment, Luke, watching them. 1 win, 9 goals. We're conceding late goals. We've been beaten 3-0 at home twice in a row, which is very unlike Wealdstone at the Vale. And before, when we've used to lose games and have a bit of a ricket, we'd bounce back with another result. And those bounce backs just aren't happening this season. We keep getting beaten. We're picking up the odd draw. And it's worrying times for us down at the Vale, because we like being in the National League. We understand it's a really competitive league, and long may that continue. But at this moment in time, who's to say it will? And discussions around the manager, the board have been loyal to him at this point. One winning 13. I think some other boards would have probably got rid of him. I personally think that he's got probably the next 2 or 3 games, and then we'll see where it goes from there. So real big week for the club. Probably one of the biggest weeks they've had in recent history in terms of where it could lead them to in the future. But it is what it is. We've got to try and stay positive. But after the performance yesterday, that's very, very difficult. They weren't brilliant. However, the manager would sugarcoat the fact we had this many shots and that amount of possession. Yeovil were lucky they didn't win 5 or 6. So we'll move on. We'll take the Braintree fixture at home under lights on the television and hopefully get a positive from there.
I think the only positive I'd say as well with Wealdstone at the moment, compared to Ebbsfleet, who are currently bottom of the league, is the fact that, yes, they've played a lot of sides that are up there so far this season. I think they've played Gateshead, they've played Oldham, they've played Halifax, Forest Green, Barnet. They've got all those fixtures out of the way now. But the other positive is, overall, forgetting about Saturday and the Barnet game, they're not getting thrashed, are they, Wealdstone? You're losing by 1 or 2 goals at every single game. You've got some you've showed promise, I think, in certain games as well. Going to Halifax, getting a point there. I know you'll look at that now and look back and think we probably should have gone and got the 3 points there. You were 2-1 up. And also, going to Forest Green and being 2-0 down and coming back to get a draw, I think also shows positive signs. But for me, when I speak about Matty Taylor, and this is from a non-biased perspective, when we're not supporting Wealdstone, I would say you'd probably give him the Braintree game, and then you have to be looking for another manager, because if you lose to Braintree, you're going to be 8 points adrift, in the bottom 4 after just 15 games, which is very, very concerning. After Braintree, of course, you've got Ebbsfleet away, and I'll be honest, if you do not defeat Ebbsfleet away, then I would have to say that you're doomed, and I'd probably be saying that you're definitely going to go down. And then after that, you've also got Aldershot away. And I think you look at those 3 fixtures, I would say, if I was a Wealdstone fan now, or look at Wealdstone, they need to get 7 points from those 3 games. Ideally, beat Braintree, beat Ebbsfleet, and then get something at Aldershot. And maybe then you'll be in quite a healthy-ish position compared to where you are at the moment. And that's the ideal situation for Wealdstone. But I look at them and can I really see them doing that? No. I am quite concerned for you, and I don't know how much more time Matty Taylor's going to have, but for me, I think looking in after that Braintree game, unless they win that game, I'd have to say you need to be looking for a new manager. But it's the same old question with Wealdstone. Who can they actually appoint? The part-time, there's a lot of bigger clubs around there. Who could Wealdstone actually appoint who's going to do a better job than what Matty Taylor's doing at the moment? Because it is a difficult job at Wealdstone, I think, overall. And Stuart Maynard did a very significant job, and I still don't think you've recovered since when he left the club. I don't think it's been the same there. Last season, you kind of slipped off a little bit, didn't you, once he left? And this season, it's been a very tough start for you. But yeah, would you be saying 7 points is needed, or would you even be saying 9 potentially?
Oh, no, I think any Wealdstone fan, probably the management, the board will snap your hand off for 7 points in 3 games. When you consider what we got, 8 or 9 points out of 13, 8 points out of 14. So to take 7 from 3, almost double your points total, will definitely be, like you say, a positive, Luke, and in a healthier position, and almost then reassess from there. And I think from our point of view, and those teams that are near the bottom are going to be in similar positions. Boston, Fylde, Braintree, Maidenhead, even likes of Woking are going to have to look at this and almost take it game by game, couple of games by game, just to see how they get on. They can't look too much further forward, because it is one of those leagues that, in general, anyone can beat anybody. Yes, the better teams are at the top, and the teams that aren't so good and are at the bottom. That's always going to naturally happen, but on their day, some of these teams can beat anyone who they're put in front of. So, yeah, we've got to be positive. And, I think you're right, the tough start, the fixtures probably haven't reflected on that too much. And if you look at it like you have objectively outside of being a Wealdstone fan, that's something to grip onto. not getting thrashed. I think, yes, I agree. But yesterday they showed that for the first time in a long time, they showed a lack of effort and desire, and I'm not suggesting that there's anything more than just they're getting beat every week, and it must be tough. You go out there as positive as you can, and you're 3-0 down. It's going to be tough. So let's just hope these next couple of games are positive for them, and they gain a bit of confidence, gain a bit of form. And like I said, after the Aldershot game, we'll take it from there and see where we're at. But we're certainly not going to be trouble in the playoffs this year, Luke.
No, I don't think so. But Alex Reid coming in adds a bit of firepower, I'd say, for Wealdstone. I think that's quite a big statement signing, although it is on loan. He's got a hat-trick in the FA Cup for you guys, albeit against a lot lower opposition, yet to score a hat-trick on your debut, I think speaks values about the qualities that he's got. So you'll be hoping that he can get firing for you guys, because I think that's been one of the questions that you're wanting to resolve, isn't it? Is not being able to score goals this season, only scoring 9. And you've brought in a striker there that, to be honest, is capable of scoring 20 goals a season in this division. He's one of the better strikers, in my opinion. And I think Oldham fans would probably agree with that. But when you look at the position that Oldham are wanting to go for at the moment, and the firepower that they've got a League One, a striker that managed to get into double digits in League One. I think Alex Reid's going to struggle to get in there. But I think moving away from that, we're going to take a look at the live chat. Just short of 50 people watching at the moment. Please remember to like and subscribe, guys. It does go a long way. Liking gets it out to more people, and subscribing also builds the community up even more. If I can look onto the live chat, as my computer seems to be having a bit of a moment at the moment. But we have got, who's coming? Mr. Luke has come in with the first comment. Who else would that be? Paul, he has said, if it can actually scroll up to his comment.
Yeah, it's not come up on the screen, Luke.
No, I'm just trying to scroll it up here. It's very slow tonight, my computer. He has said, all reached then, gents. Hopefully you are all... Oh, it's gone off again. This isn't good. We've had 2 weeks off, and yeah, I think I've got it now. Is it gonna? No, it's gone back down again.
There you go.
There we go. All right then. All right then, gents. Hopefully you are all well today. Great draw against Altrincham for us. Not a bad start to kick off our Carl Magnaire era. Much better than FA Cup embarrassment on Tuesday. No pressure. Yeah, he's the new man at the helm at Gateshead, and they're going down the same route, aren't they, of appointing a player to be the permanent manager there. I don't know if you saw his mini interview that he did, actually speaking to the group, and it was quite interesting. He seems to be very passionate about the football club, and that's something that you want with Gateshead. And it does give me the impression that Gateshead are going to continue going down the same route as what they've been doing over the past couple of seasons, ever since Williamson came in, which is a massive, massive positive, I think, for Gateshead fans at the moment.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And it was an interesting appointment, because obviously Carl Magnaire had left the club to go with Mike Williamson to MK Dons and then to Carlisle, and for him to sort of go branch out on his own and become a manager is brave of Carl Magnaire, because he could easily have sat as Mike Williamson's assistant or head coach, whoever it was the position he was in. But Gateshead have done exactly what I did before. Mike Williamson left, bringing Rob Elliott. Rob Elliott left, brings in Carl Magnaire. People, like I say, people who know the club, people who know the league. Those they played in the league as well. They're all ex-pros not so long ago. I mean, Carl Magnaire, I think, was still involved in the team only a couple of seasons ago. So, yeah, it's a great fit for Gateshead, and he'll probably continue the philosophy that they play on the field. He'll continue the culture and the ethos that the club clearly have through the last 2 managers. So, fingers crossed for him going into his first sort of foray as manager on his own. He does quite well, and a great job for him, and a great job for for Gateshead fans to have someone that they know so well to go and back.
Of course, Gateshead are back in action on Tuesday against Sutton away from home, and that's certainly going to be a tough game for the Heed. Speaking of Gateshead, we've got another Gateshead fan who's come in tonight, and we've had Mickey said, hello, how's the handsome lads doing today? I think we're doing very well. I'm not sure about Paul, but we've also had Stephen who's come in. Stephen Jones said, AFC Fylde fan here. What do you think about Kevin Phillips as our new head coach? And this is... With us actually not recording a podcast in over nearly 2 weeks, we haven't even spoke about Kevin Phillips being appointed as the Fylde manager. I think for me, I'm very much behind it. I think Hartlepool, I think in hindsight now, when they look at what happened with Sal, I think they would have given Kevin Phillips more time and would have given him the summer. So I think for Fylde, that's a real coup to get him in there. He likes to play attractive football, and I think Fylde have the type of players that will suit his system and his philosophy as well. And I think he'll get the best out of the players like your Nick Hortons, your Jollies there. Trying to think of the other player now who plays on the wing for you guys. It's gone out of my head. But no, I think overall I like the look of that appointment. I don't know what your thoughts are on it. Paul, of course, Fylde currently struggling near the bottom of the table, just like they were last season, but I'd back them to be able to stay up at the moment.
Yeah, I think the Fylde's problem when you look at it is the goals they're letting in. If you look at the league table, I think they've let the most amount of goals in. They've let 30 goals in. Don't seem to be having too much of a challenge scoring. You know, those teams at the bottom end of the table have scored 18 goals. Maidenhead has 17 goals just behind them. So I think Kevin Phillips has got to lean on all his experience, maybe as a striker, to work out, get his his defensive unit to be better defensively against strikers, and maybe perversely can he help in that sort of reverse manner. I think if they stop letting goals in, 4-0 against Dagenham at the weekend probably isn't a great result for him in these first couple of games. But listen, he seems like an intelligent chap, an intelligent footballer. He's come from non-league way back when he played down here in Hertfordshire and made his name sort of at Watford and gone on to play for England. So he knows his football. I think he's probably not going to be too worried about the fact that he's in the bottom four. He's taken on that job knowing that. So I think if they can just stop shipping those goals a little bit, and the likes of Horton and their attacking sort of talents they have, then I think they should be okay. But he's got to start quickly because of where they are in the league. So he doesn't want to put himself under too much pressure too early on.
I think it's a brave appointment from Fylde. They haven't gone down the route of getting an experienced manager who has loads of experience in this division, who'll be able to keep the side up. They've got a manager for me where I feel like they're hoping for a long-term plan with Kevin Phillips because of the style of football that he likes to play. And I think overall it's going to take time for him to implement his philosophy. But I think once they do that, I'd like to think Fylde will be able to get out of the trouble that they're in at the moment with the previous two games. Of course, losing in the FA Cup and then losing 4-0 to Dagenham. Wednesday night's going to be huge for them going to Boston. Of course, I was there to witness Boston on Saturday at Halifax. And they play quite similar to Fylde, to be fair. I thought they showed they could play quite nice football, I'd say, on the floor. But defensively, they had a lot of question to be desired. I have to say, defensively at Boston, a bit like Fylde, and that's going to be a huge game at 21st versus 22nd in the league on Wednesday night. We've had Kevin who said, "Hey up, guys. You okay tonight?" Yeah, we're good, thank you, Kevin. We've also had a Dorking fan who said, "Up the Dorking." Bob has come in tonight and said, "Evening, everyone. Welcome, Bob, to the stream." Harry, who's, of course, a York fan, will be visiting the Shea on Saturday. Said, "Evening, lads." We've had Caroline, who's a channel member, said, "Good evening, a good win for us." Who's, of course, an Aldershot fan. And then we've had Ash who's come in, who we haven't seen for quite some time, but he said, "Evening, lads. Sorry we had to knock you out of the FA Cup, Luke." No, I'm kind of glad. Less of a distraction for us, and we'll be able to overtake you in the league because of that. But no, we've had George who's come in and said, "Good evening, a good win for us against Ebbsfleet. Massive game on Saturday, on Tuesday, sorry. I'm sure Saturday will be another massive game for you though as well when you come into this year. And we've said, Paul, where do you stand on Taylor? At what point for you does his position become untenable?
Personally, I'm surprised he's still the manager of Wealdstone. Even after yesterday, I was surprised that there wasn't an announcement that that he's left the job. The board are being very loyal to him, and I can see probably why they are being loyal to him. I think that, like I said before, the big week is this week. If anything goes against us in the next 7 days, then I can't see him surviving that. If we do lose one or both of those, and looking at the Boston Fylde fixture, and results go against us that way, we could see ourselves really marooned, as Luke has stated. So I think he's probably got the next week. Nothing's been confirmed. That's pure speculation on my point. If it was me, I probably would have got rid of him before. That's just my personal opinion. Who we get in, I have no idea. That's the $1 million question Luke has posed, and a real tough one for the board, and probably why they're staying loyal. But we'll wait and see. Ask me that question in a week's time, depending how we've done.
I think the question about Wealdstone is, are the 4 teams worse than you? And that's something I know you've always mentioned, haven't you? And you've always thought that at the start of the season, are the 4 teams worse than Wealdstone? And I would say yes. I think so far this season, when I think of Wealdstone compared to the other sides that I've seen, I'd say Ebbsfleet are worse, and I'd say Boston are worse so far this season. Now, is there going to be 2 other sides that are going to be worse than you this season? And I think that's going to be the question, because I look down there at the moment, and I think this Braintree game is going to be massive for you guys, and I think for Braintree as well, for them to know where they're going to be at this season. Villa TV's come and said, up the Tamworth, staying up, ole. We've had a York City fan and said, absolutely massive game Tuesday for them Reds. Ash has come in, he's also a channel member, said, hi Luke and Paul, good win for the shot Saturday. Eastleigh looked toothless. That's interesting, considering the forward power that Eastleigh do have there with McCallum and Quigley. They mustn't have had the shooting boots on. And then we've also had Mickey, who's coming in, said, Magny was the fans' choice and the club's main target, the man we wanted to keep the club's philosophy going in the same direction. Keza said, hello, Luke. Welcome to the stream, Keza. And then actually, Keza's actually said, did Reed not play well on Saturday?
Reed tried very hard. He was isolated. The way that the Stones set up, with him playing as a lone striker, with all those 2 lads playing off him, Max Kretschmar and Mike Obiero, it just felt like those 2 were too far apart, and that's no blame to them, but it was just the way Wealdstone played. Listen, Yeovil have got 2 huge lads who play at the back there in God, their name's gone out of my head. Wannell and Morgan Williams, 2 really, really good centre halves at this level. They do what you're meant to do. They defend, and Reed was getting no change out of them whatsoever. And I just felt like he needed more support. He ran out of steam a little bit in the second half. Quite rightly, he didn't quite get the service that he required. And he strikes me as someone who doesn't want the ball played into him to hold up and get players in and around his chest and head. He needs it at his feet, and he probably needs it in front of him. He's one of those that will probably play off a big striker rather than being the big striker. But, I've only seen him once. I didn't see him in the FA Cup game. So, listen, there was a lot of endeavour and a lot of effort from his point of view. He didn't get the support and service. So hopefully, that's something that they can look on and work on. But he's certainly got the credentials to be something that we need going forward.
Villa TV's also coming. Oh no, Chris, who's a Yeovil fan, I believe, is coming and said, what do you make of Yeovil starts the season back in the National League? They've certainly gone under the radar, because I think Mark Cooper and Yeovil have received quite a lot of criticism so far this season from Yeovil fans as well. Yet they're 8th in the league at the moment. Are they? I think that's the question for me. They're certainly going strong. You can only beat what's in front of you. The only thing I will say is they've had quite a relatively nice start to the season with the sides that they've actually been playing against. They've not played many sides in the top 7, I believe, and all of their wins have actually come against sides in the bottom 6 or in the bottom half. A lot of the draws and results that they've got as well have come against sides in the bottom half overall. And when you have played sides above you, the likes of Gateshead and Oldham, you haven't managed to get a result against those sides. So for me, I think overall, I personally think Yeovil are in a little bit of a false position at the moment. But like I said, you can only beat what's in front of you. The table doesn't lie, and Yeovil are 8th at the moment. We're going to wait and see whether they still will be 8th in a few weeks' time, because it is very tight at the moment between the latter stages of the playoffs in the 6th and 7th positions, and sides probably going all the way down to 13th, 14th. At the moment. What's your thoughts on Yeovil's start so far?
I think they've done very well. I mean, listen, it can't be lost on anybody that they've got a lovely setup there with a Hewish Park, a full-time setup. They've got a manager who clearly, we've interviewed him, Luke, and we know what he's about, and he knows how to win leagues at National League level. He's won the South, the North, and the top league. So they've certainly got a coach in there that knows what to do, and I think he's quite right. I think the problem with Yeovil is maybe a bit like Oldham fans have been a little bit, maybe a bit like Southend, all these bigger clubs. There's an expectation of the supporter base that they should be doing something that they probably can't. Yeovil have come up and they romp the National League South, but there's a big step up from those regional National Leagues to the National League Premier, if you like. And, I think Yeovil fans have just got to be really patient and support what they've got, because, it wasn't so long ago, like Mark Cooper said in I think in one of his press conferences or after the match on Saturday, if you told any Yeovil fan 2 years ago when they were, he took them over in that October 2022, that they'd be 8th in the National League, or even this time last year, would they be saying that? Probably not. So I saw them Saturday firsthand for the first time, and I know they've been trying desperately to get goals. I think that's what their problem has been. They're very good defensively. They've got a real good mix in their team of pace and power and guile and skill. They play with the wing backs. 3 at the back are very solid. The young goalie had a good game yesterday. He had to do what he had to do. He wasn't tested massively at times, but when he was, he dealt with it. Ollie Wright. So I think they've got a real good blend of players there, and if they can start scoring, Aaron Jarvis yesterday was a real handful. He had a brilliant match. He was man of the match. He was a real handful, and I think if they can start scoring goals, because I know Mark Cooper has alluded to the fact that they need to score more in that final third, need to be better in that final third, then they will trouble the playoffs. And I think you're right, Luke. Sometimes you've got to take into account who teams have played, but you can only beat who's in front of you. And yesterday, they managed that game against Wealdstone very well. They exploited the weaknesses, and they went in and they took their chances. And I was very, very impressed with them. So, long may that continue for Yeovil fans. Mark Cooper certainly needs the support. Just consider where you are, because they're doing very, very well as a newly promoted side.
Kevin's actually come in, I believe, is also a Yeovil fan. What do you think of Mark Cooper's style of playing? He spoke to us about what his philosophy was at Yeovil when he actually came on the podcast. I wanted to ask, what's your personal opinions on it? Because you've obviously, of course, seen it firsthand when they came to Wealdstone this season.
Yeah, it's a little bit. They do try and play, but they're not afraid to go that little bit more direct. Go into Jarvis or Newell, whoever is playing. But they do use the right wing back and the left wing back very well. He's playing Matt Worthington on the right, which probably isn't his most natural position, or the position you're used to seeing him in. But he's very, very good. You've got that they work extremely hard. I mean, the 3-0 up, when they had to work hard, they worked hard to shut the ball down, and he expects a lot of effort. And I don't see the style of play being anything other than effective in the National League, especially with the players he's got. And as I say, he's got a real good mix of toughness in midfield, but also, that ability with Dylan Morgan who can get on the ball, McGavin who can get on the ball, Cooper rats around for 90 minutes and doesn't let anybody get sort of near him, around, past him. They're a really good football team, and I like their style of play. And listen, whatever style of play you play, if you're winning, it's acceptable. So when you start losing, it gets questioned. And at the moment, Yeovil are doing better than they probably thought. And as a Yeovil fan, I'd be happy to see that style of play and happy to see the results it yields.
Paulie has come in, who's a Solihull fan, has said, great win for the Moors yesterday, finally winning a home game. Hopefully we can push on now. I look at Solihull for me, and I don't know about you, but I think they're going to be a late challenger for the playoffs. I say late challenger, we're only 15 games into the season, but I just feel at the moment they're in a false position. You look at some of the games that they've lost. I think it's taken time. With a lot of new signings coming in, the likes of John Bostock's coming to the side for me. And when I saw them against Halifax, I thought they were a very good side. And I think consistency's certainly been an issue so far this season. But if they start remaining consistent, which I think they're going to start doing, I genuinely think that they'll be able to finish inside the playoffs this season. And I think beating the likes of Halifax, the likes of Barnet, Oldham, I think Rochdale as well, they also beat, just shows to me the type of side that Solihull are, and they're able to compete with the better sides in the division. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
No, I agree. And if you look at, like you say about Wealdstone having played a lot of the top teams in their first 15 games, the same could be said for Solihull. Yes, they're in a better position probably in terms of form, etc., than say someone like Wealdstone. But to be able to already tick off Forest Green, Rochdale, Southend, York, Oldham, Barnet, and then amongst those get wins and draws out of those teams. I think the problem they always had, Luton, we've alluded to this before, is they did so well last year that the expectation is going to be up. And with all due respect to Solihull, they're not a massive club in the National League. If you've been to their ground,
financially they are, I'd say. I wouldn't say they're biggest financially, but I'd say that they're probably a top 7 budget, I would say.
Possibly. They haven't got a big fan base. The ground is lovely and tidy. It's not one of these big stadiums. It is. They're just a very. It feels to me a very well run football club, and getting Andy Wing in as manager has been an inspired choice. We talked about it just the back end of a couple of seasons ago, and they started getting, just as Ardley was sort of leaving and they were getting rid of players. And then he came in the summer with a director of football and they changed their squad. And you think, where the hell has Solihull gone? I think I even predicted them to go down because, you just looked and thought, well, what are they going to do? And they've gone and surprised everyone and got to Wembley and won things and, always flirted with the idea of getting in the EFL. So this season was always going to be tough off the back of that because you've got to go again and do it. But they're slowly getting back to that. And that's an impressive win on the weekend. To beat Barnet, doesn't matter how you do it, to beat the top team in the league and Barnet have been on an excellent run of form. That's a good win for them.
Yeah, I'd certainly say so. We're probably at a point. Oh, no, there were one final topic before we do come on to the predictions. Hartlepool then, Sal has finally been dismissed. Someone I've been calling for Hartlepool to sack for a number of weeks now, and they've finally done it. The question is now, who is going to be the next manager at Hartlepool? And a lot of Hartlepool fans are going around, well, who would want to be the Hartlepool manager at the moment with the current owner? But I look at Hartlepool, I think you've got a great squad to work with there at the moment. Of course, Lenny Lawrence is taking temporary charge. It's unlikely that he's going to become the permanent manager there. You're looking at potential managers at the moment. Did come out that Pete Wild is off the table. He will not be looking at the Hartlepool job. He's actually come out and said that he's hoping for a job in the UFL, which I think most people realistically expected him to come out and say he did a great job at Barrow. He was rumoured to take the Blackpool job. So it'd be a bit of a downgrade, no disrespect to Hartlepool, to be going back into the National League. Other managers that have been recommended or suggested, I should say, Matty Gray, of course, the Sutton manager, managed to get Sutton out of this division and keep them in the Football League for a fair few years. for me, I look at him, he's very similar to Sal in this type of football that he likes to play in. Is that the best thing for Hartlepool at the moment with the type of players they've got? For me, I'd say he's a better version of Sal. But do Hartlepool want to go down a different route of trying a different type of style or philosophy? Lee Cattermole has been rumoured. For me, it's a big no-no for me. He's got no experience, I believe, in this division at all, or even in management. He's got to deal with a lot of big characters as well. When you look at some of the names, the likes of Manny Di Sarue, Gary Medine, Luke Waterfall as well. I look at that and I think that would be a massive no-no for me, appointing Lee Cattermole at Hartlepool. Is there any one out of those for you that stands out? For me personally, no. I think the best option will be Matty Gray, but I don't know what your thoughts are.
No, I mean, immediately when you said that name, it's certainly a name that hasn't been spoken about since he left Sutton. Really, there hasn't been many job opportunities, is there, for anyone in the National League? But a manager's going to look at Hartlepool, irrespective of the owner. I think, like you said, look at the fan base, look at the ground, look at the setup, look at the squad, and think, I could do something with that. And especially if you're going to go and play a brand of football that's attractive to fans, I think Darren Searle, just for whatever reason, it didn't work for them. I don't know, whether their style just didn't suit the players. It just didn't work. And like you said, Luke, it took an FA Cup defeat and an exit for him to finally lose his job. And none of us like to see people lose their jobs, but he did look like he was walking a tightrope for a number of months. So, yeah, Matt Gray, Neil Ardley still looking for a job potentially. Yeah. From who's a National League sort of manager of the past. There's not too any others out there, is there? Even the EFL managers who possibly aren't sort of in work at the moment, and whether they decide to go down that academy route that we've talked about with other teams have looked at, that potentially could be something. Is there someone in a Newcastle, Sunderland, Blackburn, wherever academy who they might be able to sort of entice away and come? But whoever. I do apologise. My northeast and northwest geography sometimes gets a bit blurred, so everything's north of Watford. So please excuse my ignorance. But that type of academy, someone who was it that mentioned? I think Luke from not Luke, Joe from Off the Line blog mentioned the potential Gateshead manager being someone that from another academy that had played in the northeast. So I mean, there's going to be loads of names that we won't even consider that will apply for that job because of the size of it and the potential. But I can't see Lenny Lawrence doing it for too much longer. I know he's sort of in his 70s now, so it's going to be real tough for him to have to go back to full-time management. But I'm sure he'll steady the ship until they find someone who's more capable and more willing to do it. But who that is, who knows, Luke?
Booby's come in and said, it wouldn't surprise me if Chris Beach goes to Hartlepool. Their chairman always goes for the cheap option. That will be a very cheap option. Of course, he was sacked at AFC Fylde. And he's obviously not one of the more well-known names, I'd say, in the National League either. Neil Ardley mentioned 2 marks come in. Ali said, you'd be mad to join Hartlepool. A club is poisoned, Chalice at the moment. Of course, I know they've been having a few protests with the owner for a number of years now. But the only thing I'd say is, like I've said, the fan base is there. It's a big club in this division. And I think you've got a good squad to work with as well. And to be fair to Singh, who's the owner there, he did back Sal in the summer. They have been quite, I'd say with the players that they've brought in, I think it shows that he's capable of spending quite a lot of money this season for me. Probably at a point now where we'll go on to the predictions. Over 70 of you watching, which is very good for a Sunday night show. Please remember to like and subscribe. Of course, liking gets it out to more people as well whilst you are watching this. Also, please check out our sponsors, Cards Accepted. If you use the link in the description, you will get 50% off your card machine. No contracts or monthly fees. Now, it's your moment, Paul. In 2 ways. One, you get to shout out the travel on the travel club, and also you get to gloat about still being ahead, but only by 1 point still.
Yeah, I know. It's well, we haven't done it for a couple of weeks, have we? So I've been basking in that glory of being top of the league for a couple of weeks longer than maybe I should be, Luke. So let's see whether this Tuesdays and Wednesdays fixtures gain some more momentum for me and I sort of stretch that lead away. But a tough one to select this week. As you say, there's some really good fixtures out on the Tuesday and Wednesday. So yeah. So and obviously, you know, I've sponsored the predictions table. So anyone who wants a holiday, then please don't hesitate to give me a shout. I'm going away for 2 weeks on Wednesday myself, so I will be on social media, but I'm going down to Australia, so I will be sort of 10, 12 hours different. So you know, I'll be looking at the National League with interest from afar over the next couple of weeks.
Blooming heck, you're always on holiday at the moment. You've been to Ireland, Finland, now you're off to Australia, you're off to Greece next month. Blooming heck. But no, we'll get on to the predictions then. We'll have a quick glance at the table whilst we do scroll down. Barnet, Forest Green and York lead the way. At the moment, these look like the 3 title contenders, but you have to say the likes of Gateshead and Oldham and potentially even Rochdale could be in a shout in the next couple of weeks. Halifax in 7th, back inside the playoffs now. For the first time since the opening day, I do believe. We've spoke about Yeovil all the way up to 8th. Eastleigh have certainly fallen off at the moment. I think they've had 1 win in 7. They're down to 9th now. Solihull up to 10th. Dagenham and Redbridge down to 11th. Tamworth up to 12th. They're another side that are going under the radar this season. A lot of people wrote them off before a ball had been kicked, including myself and Paulie. I think we both put them bottom at the start of the season, yet they're proving us all wrong at the moment, sitting 12th in the league table. Sutton and Altrincham, Southend, Aldershot, Hartlepool, Woking, Maidenhead and Braintree are the sides who are in the bottom half at the moment, but not in the drop zone. And then in the drop zone at the moment, we've got Fylde, Boston, Poleside, Wealdstone and Ebbsfleet United. Any sides for you when you look at the bottom 4 at the moment, if you think dead and buried, although only 14 games into the season? There certainly is one for me.
Well, I'm going to be... the heart will go rule the head, and hopefully Wealdstone will come out. I think Ebbsfleet are the ones that are struggling, and you know I think with us playing them on Saturday, and they've got Forest Green on Tuesday. That's 2 tough fixtures for them. All of a sudden, they could really see themselves sort of cut adrift after 16 games. But no, the others, they're all capable of pulling a result out of the bag. You know, Maidenhead and Masters at that. Braintree are doing enough to keep themselves above that bottom 4 and Fylde. If Kevin Phillips can get them defending a bit better, then possibly. So, yeah, it's going to be out of those sort of 5 or 6 at the bottom there. I can't see Hartlepool maybe getting any worse than they already are. They'll probably improve. Woking are where they should maybe be with their problems off the field and the sort of squad they have. You know, I think they'll do enough to stay up. So, yeah, I think it will chop and change at the bottom, but not by too much.
I think Ebbsfleet for me are down. You know, they've already tried changing manager. I don't think it's worked. I don't think they're going to be able to do that again without them being too far cut adrift. They're already 6 points, 7 points actually, away from safety, and with only 14 games in. Yeah, for me, I think they're certainly struggling at the moment with them only having 1 win so far this season, which actually came against Hartlepool. I think the difference compared to them and Wealdstone is Ebbsfleet are getting thumped. In 6 of their 14 games so far this season, they've conceded 3 goals or more, and they've got Forest Green coming up on Tuesday night. So for me, I'm very concerned for them. We'll get on to the predictions now. Game week 15 we are on to. And the first game is Dagenham versus Eastleigh. I believe this is 11th versus 9th. Dagenham can go above Eastleigh if they do win this game. Eastleigh could, of course, get back inside the playoffs if they do manage to defeat Dagenham. Dagenham have been very strong at home so far this season. They've got the 4th best home form in the division. And as I previously mentioned, Eastleigh have only had one win in 7. For me, I'm going to back Dagenham to win this game 3-1. What about you?
I've gone with Dagenham to win 2-0. You know, being at home, they've done very well at home, haven't they? You know, you look at, they sort of won 4-0 the weekend. They beat Gateshead 7-1. You know, they're quite strong at home. And Eastleigh they started off okay, dropped a little bit, had a really good purple patch, and now they're back off again. So a really odd team to predict, Eastleigh. But at the moment, I think, Dagenham 2, Eastleigh 0.
Please put your predictions in as well, guys. We've still got over 70 people watching at the moment. We will put them on screen. If you want to kind of play along in a way, you can do. You can count up your predictions. You get 1 point if you get the result correct. So if, let's say, you said 2-0, but the side won 3-0, then you'd get 1 point. But if you get the exact result correct, so if you, let's say, said 3-2 and it was 3-2 to the side that won the match, you get 3 points, and of course no points if you don't get the result at all. So if you do want to play along, you can do that. I know 1 or 2 of our listeners do that already. Next game then that we will have a look at is Forest Green Rovers versus Ebbsfleet. Then Forest Green Rovers are yet to score 5 in a game so far this season. Will it come against Ebbsfleet? In my opinion, I think it will do. I'm going to go for a 5-1 Forest Green win. Like I mentioned, Ebbsfleet have had 3 or more goals against them in 6 of their 14 matches so far this season. They've had 1 win all season, 31 goals against them, which does mean they have the worst defence in the division. And I think some of those forward players for Forest Green Rovers, they're going to have a bit of a field day, I think, on Tuesday evening. How do you see it going?
I haven't been as generous. I've put Forest Green 3, Ebbsfleet 0 for the very many reasons that you put, Lou. But I'd like to think Ebbsfleet are a little bit more resolute than shipping 5 at home. But you could be right. I hope it's that result for Wealdstone's sake. You know, goal difference may count in the future, etc.
I'm thinking.
Yeah, so I've gone with 3. I've gone with 3-0. I've gone with 3-0. I've been a bit kinder to Ebbsfleet, but I still think that they'll get beat.
Someone said at Stingstone, Ebbsfleet somehow on track to finish worse than us in our disaster season. Lewis has come in and said 2-2, 2 good teams. Ooh, we can't be talking about that game. There's 1 good team at the moment. Sorry, I'm kind of ripping into Ebbsfleet at the moment. We'll move on to the next game then. Maidenhead versus Oldham. Oldham Athletic. Let's talk about you guys then. They're going away to Maidenhead. To be fair, and I'm going to have all the criticism again. Maidenhead do seem to do better against the better teams, and it's a long way for Oldham to go on a Tuesday night. For me, I'm going for a 1-1 draw for this game. Give me all the stick you want. Bit Oldham fans. I said that you draw to Solihull. You went and lost to Solihull. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw for this game. And let's not talk about the FA Cup game. We let you off. We felt sorry for you because you hadn't played us before, and we had to concentrate on the league. That's why. But no, what's your thoughts on this game then, Paul?
I've gone for a tight game. I've put Oldham are going to win 2-1. Listen, Luke, I think you're as unkind to Oldham as I was to York maybe last season. But if you look at Oldham, the reality of Oldham now is they're starting to score goals. And I think that was what you were sort of saying was probably one of their main challenges if they were going to try and challenge that top 3. If you look at their consistency in winning now and getting results, they weren't playing too well in getting results. They may have had 1 or 2 bad score lines against them. But on the whole, they're getting their act together. Mickey Mellon is getting their act. Is finally managed to sort his squad out. They look like they're playing with a bit of confidence, and they are scoring goals, and that's important if you're going to be at the top end of the table. I do agree that Maidenhead do play better against the bigger teams or the teams at the top of the table. Maidenhead are at home. It's not the easiest place to go, especially midweek. I still got a feeling with Oldham in the form they are that they're going to be winners and they'll win 2-1.
Maiden had unbeaten in 4 as well. For me, I honestly look at this and I don't think this would be a bad point for Oldham away from home on a Tuesday night. Something I will also say to Bob, who said I'm clearly salty. If I had a choice of going to Oldham away later on in the season and winning there or winning in the FA Cup to get a trip to Tranmere, I would much rather beat you in the league than defeat you in the FA Cup. So I think we've saved our win against you, our annual win, I should say, against you guys for the end of the season. Now, I'm only joking. Oldham are clearly going strong at the moment. I'll agree. When they came against us, although it is true we gifted you 3 goals, I do think Oldham were a lot better side this season than what they were last season. And I also saw that when they came to our place and managed to get a point against us. But that doesn't mean I don't think you're going to drop points at Maiden. I do genuinely think you will. 1-1 draw. Moving on to the next game then. My side, it's Derby Day. The side that I love so much, Rochdale away from home. 6th versus 7th. Like I said, it's Derby Day for us. I think there's less than 20 miles that separates the two sides. We're looking forward to this one. How do you see it going, Paul?
I've gone with a 2-2 draw, Luke. A local derby form can go out the window that little bit under the lights, a cold evening. It's going to be a tough tie for both teams. I think it could be a real humdinger. Rochdale aren't on the best of form, I don't suppose, but both teams are hanging in there in the playoffs. So I think Rochdale 2, Halifax 2. So I'm sat on the fence a little bit because I can't see a winner between the two of them.
I can't believe you've gone for 2-2. Who on earth predicts Halifax to draw 2-2 and then for me to also do the same thing? The one week I predict us to draw 2-2. I've actually also gone for 2-2. The reason I do that, I say that, is because you look at Rochdale, and although they've had a very good start to the season, and I genuinely think they're a very good team as well, that'll finish inside the playoffs this season. I do believe I underestimated them at the start of the season. They have got quite a bit of mixed form at home, and they're coming up against a Halifax side that are very strong away from home. Probably one of the best, I'd say, in the division. We're 7th in the form away from home at the moment in the form table, but we have also got a game in hand on away games. So I personally do believe that we're very strong away from home, better away than we are at home. And like you've mentioned, Paul, it's a derby day. Anything can happen. I'm going for a 2-2 draw for this game. I think we'd take that. Then we've got York at home. I think for Rochdale, they'll probably be wanting to get back to winning ways after losing to Southend, because on paper, you look at Southend's current position and you say that's a very bad result. But I do believe Southend did very well in that game and defended very well. And I've always mentioned it. I think Southend are also in a false position at the moment. So, I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw as well for this game. The next game then, 2 newly promoted clubs, 2 sides that won their respected divisions last season. It's Tamworth versus Yeovil. Also the 2 sides that are performing the best so far this season. Tamworth in 12th and Yeovil in 8th. How do you see this going, Paul?
I've gone for another 2-2 draw. This is a real tough one because, like I said, Yeovil have done very well against those teams around them, and you'd like to think that they're going to end up being, in and around the same sorts of issues. Tamworth are the only team that have got the plastic pitch, so they've got to go up there and do that. It's not the easiest journey, I don't suppose. Yeovil to Tamworth on a Tuesday night. Yeovil are going to be buoyed by the fact that they played very well against Wealdstone on Saturday, and Tamworth are off the back of some good results themselves. So I think, again, I can't split them. I think it will be 2-2, and Yeovil will be happy with that point than maybe Tamworth would, because I know it's going to be a tough one for Yeovil to go there.
I'm agreeing with Chris and actually going for a 0-0 draw for this game. Don't know why. I think Tamworth last season were very strong defensively. I know so far that's probably been where they've been the weakest so far, conceding 25 goals. We've spoke about Yeovil being very good defensively. They certainly have been so far this season. I don't know. A bit of a gut feeling, I suppose. Do Tamworth have enough firepower for me to be able to cause any issues for Yeovil? No. Do I think Yeovil do? Maybe on the day. but I do think Tamworth are a well-drilled side for me overall. Very, very hard to break down, I think so. Yeah, I'm going to go for a 0-0 draw for this game. We'll move on to the next one. And you'd have to say, I was questioning earlier whether Rochdale v Halifax could have maybe competed with York v Barnet for Game of the Week, but I think York v Barnet has to be Game of the Week. First versus third. Probably potentially the biggest game in the National League so far this season. 1 point separates the two sides. I think what makes it even more interesting is the fact that it's at York as well, where it's going to be bouncing, I think, on Tuesday night. How do you see it going then, Paul, this one?
It's what 8,500 potentially could fill the York Stadium, whether they get that many. But I think you're right. I mean, the crowds are going to be much better, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
I put York 3, Barnet 2. Now, York have got to sort of take some encouragement from Barnet's maybe defensive frailties from the weekend. I know Dean Brennan will try his best to sort of stop that happening again. Clearly, with he wasn't too happy in his press conference afterwards with a certain number of his players and the way they defended. York are really good going forwards, and if Barnet are off their mettle in terms of defensive, then I think York will certainly sort of take advantage of that. But Barnet have proven, even going to Solihull, losing 4-3, they've scored 3 goals away from home, and not many teams can do that. So I think York will win 3-2, purely because York are at home and they're just buzzing that little bit more, and Barnet are going to be hurting from that defeat at Solihull away from home. So a really, really good game on paper. One that would be a great watch for any neutral that wants to sort of see a National League match. Both teams are entertaining, and both teams are in some sort of form, really. And I think York will just edge that one 3-2.
Matthews said high-scoring game for a piece. Potentially, you never know with the National League, to be fair. York have the best defence in the division and Barnet have the best attack. So it's going to be interesting to see how this game goes. A lot of people are going for high-scoring a game, but a lot of also people, like Kevin here, has actually gone for a 1-0 Barnet win. For me, I think York are going to win. I'm going to agree with you, and I'm going to go for a 2-1 York win for this game. York, like I've said, they've got the best defence in the division, so they've only conceded 7 goals in 14 matches. It is outrageous. But they are certainly going to be tested against Barnet on Tuesday night. But like you've mentioned, Barnet losing to Solihull, they're going to have to bounce back, and this is going to be the biggest game of the season for them. Will they be able to do that? No, I'm going to go for a 2-1 York win. We'll move on to the next game then now, which is Aldershot versus Southend. I think we're moving on to Wednesday night fixtures now. Aldershot and Southend both surprised, I think, both of us at the weekend, beating sides that were both above them in the table. Aldershot beating Eastleigh by 2-1, and Southend going up to Rochdale and managing to win 1-0 there. Two sides for me that I think are in positions where they'd like to be a lot higher this season. I don't think either would accept being in the bottom half. I think both sides at the start of the season were aiming for the playoffs. Hard one to predict. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw for this game. How do you see it going?
Oh, I've gone with the Southend to win 2-0. Now, I must admit, when I looked at this result, this fixture rather, I certainly looked at it more than some of the others because it was a really difficult one to predict.
Mm-hmm.
Southend haven't maybe been as good as they could be. Shots are a little bit indifferent, but they both had good results of the weekend. I just went with a gut feel. I think Southend could back up what they did yesterday night against Rochdale, again against Aldershot, and will win 2-0.
Fair enough then. So you've gone for a different score. Is that the first time tonight? Might be, to be honest. That we've gone for different scores. Oh no, Maidenhead v Oldham. You backed Oldham. It would be that one, won't it? We'll move on to the next game then now. Altrincham versus Hartlepool. Hartlepool with Lenny Lawrence at the helm. I don't think that'll change by Tuesday. Altrincham, of course, got a good point against Gateshead with a 2-2 draw. How do you see it going then?
1-1. 1-1. Not, Altrincham are a good footballing side, but I wouldn't necessarily say that's the most exciting fixture out of all of them that's on that list this week, Luke. And Altrincham have been very indifferent. Hartlepool are in that flux of change, and can Lenny Lawrence just sort of stabilise a little bit. It's not a fixture that excites me, if I'm honest, and I think the scoreline reflects that. And I've gone with a 1-1 draw.
Fair enough. I've actually gone for a 2-1 draw, 2-1 win. Sorry, not a draw. It can't be. Obviously, I agree with you on that. You look at both sides. I think Hartlepool going forward for me are a lot stronger than Altrincham, and this is where I think the difference will be. We spoke about Hartlepool. I think defensively all season, overall, they've probably been okay. Going forward, they've clearly got the attack there, but I don't think we've seen the best of that yet. And I think with Sal leaving, I think we may see this on Tuesday night. So I am going to go for Hartlepool to win this game by 2-1. We'll move on to the next game then, which is Boston versus Fylde. Now, this is a huge game towards the bottom of the table. The winner could, of course, would get out of the drop zone. For me, I looked at Boston at the weekend, and once we went 1-0 up, I must admit, I thought we were going to go on to win 2-3-0. And to be honest, I think on another day, if we hadn't have sat back after going 1-0 up, which is something that we keep seeming to do away from home when we take the lead, I think we probably could have put a few more goals past Boston, because I think defensively they were very poor. Going forward, I think it was a case of being poor in both boxes. They clearly didn't have a natural goal scorer. There was one individual, though, for Boston that stood out, which was Finlay Welch. He's on loan from Norwich. Number 14 for them was very, very good. I'd love to see a player like that at Halifax. So he's a player to keep an eye out for Boston. For this game, though, I am actually going to back Boston to win 3-1 with them being the home side. They're due a win at home. They haven't won at home all season. I looked at Boston and I didn't think they were that bad. I've seen worse sides than them. So I think they're due a win at home, and I think it'll come against Fylde. I'm going for a 3-1 Boston win. How do you see it going?
This is one of my, I guess, the bonkers one of the week. I've gone with 3-3. I think neither team will want to lose. Neither team can let goals in. Both teams could be capable of scoring, especially Fylde. I've gone with 3-3, Luke. It might be 0-0, but I reckon it could be a bit of a goal fest.
You won't be able to replicate that 4-3. Let's put it in. No, I'm joking. But no, we'll move on to the next game. Solihull v Woking then. Solihull, of course, I've given my thoughts on them being in a false position. Woking kind of dipping further and further towards the drop zone for them. Somewhere I think I predicted them at the start of the season. I'm not sure if you did or not, Paul. I think Solihull will win this game. I'm actually going to go for a 3-0 Solihull win. How do you see it going?
Yeah, I've gone 2-0. I think Woking aren't going to set the world alight this season. I think they've just got to try and stay in the league after the problems they've had off the field. They've done very well considering what we all predicted. And they actually had a spell right early in the season, didn't they, where they were right up there, and you thought, blimey, they're going to upset everybody and tear up the form, but they've gone back to what we probably expect Woking to be. They're a good National League club, and I hope that it all gets sorted out for them, so they've got a future that looks maybe a bit brighter than it does at the moment. But I think Solihull will just be very efficient, and they'll go to Woking and do what they need to do, and they will win 2-0.
We'll move on to the next game then now, which is Sutton versus Gateshead. I remember at the start of the season, Sutton were right up there with Gateshead. They were actually unbeaten. I think they were the longest side in the division to remain unbeaten, weren't they, Sutton? Until they lost to Forest Green. For me, for this one, I'm going to go for Sutton. No, I'm going to go for a draw for this one. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw for this game. How do you see it going?
I've gone with a Sutton win. And it's only because they're at home, and Gateshead are a very good side, and Sutton are just showing that inconsistency of a side that are full of youth and are full of maybe National League inexperience. But they are at home. That's a bit of a journey for the Heat to come down to the sort of south of the river, down to Sutton on a Tuesday, Wednesday night. So I could just, my gut feel again says that I think Sutton will win, but Gateshead will give them a good game, as they always will. Gateshead will always give anyone a good game. I just got a feeling that Sutton will just be the winners on this occasion.
Moving on to the final game then, which is Wealdstone versus Braintree. We've already spoke quite a lot about the significance of this game for Wealdstone and for Braintree, to be fair. How are you feeling going into it? You feeling confident? I'm sure you'll be feeling nervous because of how significant the game is.
I'm not feeling confident whatsoever, Luke. I think any Wealdstone fans got to look at it and say, well, they're in and around us. It's a winnable game on paper. I know you don't win games on paper, but it's a winnable game on paper. We are at home. We generally do okay at home, especially under the lights. They've just got to come out and play with a bit of confidence. The Stones lads have got to come out and play with a bit of confidence. The worry is if we go 1-0 down, we've got to get 2 to win. That's going to be really difficult because we don't do it that often. We scored nine goals all season, and 4 of those came in 2 matches. So we're not scoring goals. If we're okay defensively, then we got a chance. I have gone with Stones to win 2-1, and that's purely we're at home and we've got to win. So I think they all know that. I think the manager definitely knows that. He might be walking the tightrope potentially. And it's a must-win game for the Stones, and I think they will. I think they'll win 2-1.
I'm backing you as well, but I'm going for a 1-0 Wealdstone win. I think defensively, I don't think Wealdstone are that bad. And if you actually look at some of the individuals defensively-wise, you've got the likes of Cook, who's been there for a long time now. You've also got Mariappa as well, who's there. He's not injured, is he? He'd be playing in an ex-Premier League centre-half. And the additions of Alex Reid for me going forward, I think it's an ambitious signing for me at Wealdstone to actually bring him on loan. So I am going to back you to win this game. And I do think it'll be Alex Reid who will get the goal for you. You're due a win, to be fair. Home form this season hasn't been the greatest on paper, but you're coming up against a Braintree side for me that I'm not that impressed with, and I do think Wealdstone have the capabilities to be able to defeat them. But yeah, it's a massive game for both clubs, particularly Wealdstone. At the moment, I think that more or less wraps up the predictions. I don't think we've missed any games, have we? I don't believe we have. Thanks to everyone that's tuned in tonight. We do really appreciate it. These are the scores on the doors once again. Paul is leading me at the moment by a point. That's thanks to Rob mostly, because he managed to get you in the lead. Well, he got you back to level with me, and then you had one good game week, and then now always very similar. Because something I have noticed, our predictions are quite similar, so maybe we'll have to try change that up in the future potentially. But no, those are the scores on the doors at the moment. You can also do this by counting your predictions up too. Please like and subscribe. We do really appreciate it. Also, check out our sponsors, Cards Accepted. If you use a link in the description, you will get 50% off your order. No contracts or monthly fees, and we do really appreciate Cards Accepted sponsoring the channel for the season. Paul, thanks for joining me once again. It's been nearly 2 weeks since I've been joined by you. I do apologise for not being able to do it on Thursday night, but it's good to be back. Obviously, recording a podcast with you.
Yeah, no, it's nice. I'm glad you're feeling okay, Luke. And I quite enjoy the international break following England, but I know we weren't here to be able to do the pod with the FA Cup, but there was a few casualties in the FA Cup for National League. Those that are still in it, enjoy the first round. We got Grimsby away, which isn't the most exciting tie in the world, but possibly winnable. See how our form is. But yeah, a good set of fixtures this midweek. It's it'd be interesting to see where the land lies come Saturday.
Well, we saw 41 goals in the previous game week. It'll be interesting to see if we can have that this game week. I doubt it, to be honest, because of how the sides that are coming up against each other is so tight. But I do honestly believe this is going to be the best game week that we've seen so far. It certainly has the potential to be with some of the fixtures that are going to be played. But no, Paul, once again, thanks for joining me. Thanks to everyone else that has also tuned in tonight. We do really appreciate it. Thanks to the members as well who signed up to the channel for £2.99 a month. Of course, if you are a member, you can use custom emojis in the live chat for your club. And also, when we do start to produce more interviews, you will get early access to those interviews as well. And we're hoping to implement a few more ideas as well for members. So if you do want to become a member, you can do that on a laptop. It's just £2.99 a month, and we do really appreciate it. That's enough of me waffling. Thanks to everyone once again that's joined us tonight, and we will see you on Thursday evening. Bye.